Hey, welcome back, y'all. So in the last episode, we made the banana protein parfait. But in this episode, we're making a lemon herb chicken balsamic vinaigrette jar salad. This will be good for a lunch. And if you want to have it for dinner, it can be used as a light dinner. But if you wanted to make it like a full dinner, you'll just need to add a little extra, like some grains or maybe some chickpeas, okay? First, we're going to start with making our dressing so we can set it aside. And it's just 5 simple ingredients with a little bit of seasoning. So first, we'll start with the olive oil. You'll do about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Okay. And then you will do 1 tablespoon of balsamic vinegar. A little bit more. Okay. And then y'all know I love honey. It gives it a little bit of sweetness to take out that tart taste from the balsamic vinegar. So then you want to use a half of a lemon and you'll juice it. And if some of the seeds get in there, it's perfectly fine. You can just take them out with a spoon. Okay, and then you'll add about 1 tablespoon of garlic. If you use fresh garlic, you'll use about 2 cloves, okay? And then you will season it with whatever. You can use salt and pepper, but I'm using Flavor God everything seasoning. And then you stir it up. And it'll be like a vinaigrette. So it'll be a bit more watery consistency than like your typical dressing, but that's what happens when you make homemade dressings. If you want it a little bit thicker, you could always add some Dijon mustard. I just don't really like mustard, so I typically just do it this way. But if you are a fan of Dijon mustard, it'll give it a little bit more of a tart taste, and you'll need to add more honey to give it that sweetness. Smells so good. All right, and you will set that in the fridge. All right, and so then we are gonna go ahead and season our chicken. Always use a different cutting board. You don't want to cut your vegetables on the same cutting board that you would put your chicken on, okay? So I'm gonna move this up and sit this here. All right. And so I like to cut the fat off of my chicken breast so it doesn't add like any extra fat. Some people like it, but if you are definitely on a weight loss journey, it's gonna be super important for you to cut off this like little extra fat on the chicken breast, okay? And if you don't like chicken breast, it's totally fine for you to use chicken thighs or chicken tenderloins, you know, whatever you suggest, whatever you prefer. All right, so I like to season my chicken breast with everything seasoning from Flavor God. Flavor God seasonings are super clean ingredients, and they all have like salt in them, so you don't have to add like any extra salt or anything, and it gives it a lot of flavor. And for whatever reason, these Flavor God seasonings seep down into the meat. And then I also like to use the garlic lover. Love garlic. It smells so good. It gives it a lot of flavor. Okay. And then I also like to squeeze a little bit of lemon because it helps bring out the flavor in your meats, okay? And you just, and you can always let this marinate in the fridge for a couple of hours before you decide to cook it. It'll bring out even more flavor, okay? So for this for this meal prep purposes, I always like to use the air fryer because it's quick. If you do not have an air fryer, it's perfectly fine for you to use the oven. You actually can cook a lot more chicken if you put it in the oven, and you just put it on a sheet pan, cook it at 375 for about 25 minutes, and make sure you flip it halfway through. So I'm gonna go get the air fryer. And so for me, I always like to put parchment paper in the bottom of my air fryer. A lot of people like to use aluminum. I do not use aluminum because aluminum can seep into your food and it's not good for you. It can become toxic in your body. And it's just easier cleanup as well. Okay. And so I'll just pop this in the air fryer on 400 for 25 minutes, flipping it halfway through. When you're dealing with raw foods, you always want to clean your area before you start chopping or making anything else, because this could easily be cross-contamination. So always make sure you clean your area before starting your next cutting process, okay? So while that's in the air fryer, you can go ahead and chop up all your vegetables. So for me, for my salads, for this particular salad, I love English cucumber, a yellow bell pepper, some beautiful cherry tomatoes, shredded carrots, red onion, and of course your greens. So I'll start by chopping up my cucumber. And since we're only making 1 jar salad for this purpose, we're only going to do about 1/4 of a cucumber, okay? And then you'll slice it, and then you'll slice it in half, and then you'll slice it again in 4s. Another easy way to get your vegetables chopped quickly, that you can buy a vegetable chopper and it'll make things easier. So the way that I chop my bell pepper is I just go all the way around it to get the core out, okay? And then I just slice it and then chop it. And you'll only do about 1/2 of a bell pepper for 1 jar, or 1/4 of a bell pepper for 1 jar. 1/2 of a bell pepper will make 2 jars. All right, and then next you're gonna chop your cherry tomatoes in half. All right, your shredded carrots are already cut. And then your red onion. You're gonna peel it as much as you can. So a lot of people like to know how you keep from crying when you're cutting an onion. So you don't want to cut the core. This side, this is the core side. The side that has like the little outside piece is the side you don't want to cut off. You can cut off this side. And then what I do is I just chop straight down the middle. And then to get your smaller pieces, you just chop. Okay. And then you can chop again depending on how small you want it. But if I'm being honest, they're already kind of chopped up. But just to get them a little more choppy. And even with it being open, I'm not crying. See? So once your chicken is out of the air fryer, you want to take it and you want to dice your chicken, okay? So I just cut it. And then to dice it, you'll just cut it this way to get your diced pieces. And it does not have to be perfect. just whatever to your liking. This is probably about a 5-ounce piece of chicken breast, okay? You can just sit that up here. You want to have all your ingredients laid out so that you can go ahead and start your layering. Okay. Now, this is the super important part. When you are layering, you always want to put your dressing on the bottom. If you do not put your dressing on the bottom, it will make your salad super soggy. In addition to, if you put your chicken on the top layer, on top of your salad greens, that will also wilt your salad greens. So you want to make sure that you have cooled your chicken breast before you decide to go ahead and layer, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on the bottom. Okay, just like that. And then you'll put your harder vegetables on the bottom. So you'll start with your cucumbers. And then if you're also doing chickpeas or something, you can also put that at the bottom. So you literally just dump it in there. Dump your cucumbers. And it's okay, like if they get all that flavoring from the dressing, it just makes it even better. And then you put your bell peppers, because that's also a harder vegetable. Okay. And then you'll go in with your tomatoes. Then your shredded carrots. And your red onions. I love red onions, so I like a lot of them. Do as many as you want, but they're really good for you. Super high antioxidants, and it helps your immune system in turn, which is antioxidants. Okay? And then you go ahead and add your salad greens. If you do about a handful or two, that'll give you about 1.5 cups of greens, but you have so many vegetables in here. And then on your top layer, you'll add your chicken. And you just push it all down in there to make sure it fits. Add your top. And you have a jar salad for the week. Now, when you get to work, I'm going to show you how you can dump it out, okay? I like to use just like a big bowl. If you do not have a big bowl, you can simply just use a plate. Like you do not have to do, this is if you're at home. But if you have a plate, you can do that as well, okay? Literally, all you do is you just dump it out, right? And then you literally just mix it all up so you get all that dressing will get all on your salad. You see how colorful that is? You need those colorful vegetables for so many different reasons. So make sure you're always eating a wide range of vegetables, not just green or yellow or orange. Okay? All right, and there you go.